Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. This exploration today is brought to you by AI-deas under the Good Business podcast. We're proudly hosted by the PHINMA-DLSU Center for Business and Society, and we're all about embodying our mission of business as a force for good. And just as a quick note, nodding to innovation here, this particular deep dive is actually an AI-generated production. We made it possible using Notebook LM. So today, we're peeling back the layers on something that's, well, it's really woven into our daily lives now, the ever-expanding digital economy. I mean, just pause for a second and think, how much of your day happens online now? You know, from unwinding with Netflix after work to maybe small businesses running their entire marketing on, say, Facebook ads. Our world's gone virtual. But for a long time, a big chunk of these digital services, especially the ones coming from overseas, they kind of operated outside the Philippine tax system. That's changing now, though. And it's definitely making waves, both for households and for company balance sheets.
It really is a fascinating global shift, isn't it? This huge growth in the digital economy, it's not just happening here, it's everywhere. And governments all over the world have been grappling with this challenge. How do you fairly and effectively tax these digital services that cross borders, especially within, existing national tax rules? It really sets the scene for the kind of policy changes we're seeing now, including right here in the Philippines.
Exactly. And that evolving landscape is precisely what a really insightful article from the Managing for Society column in the Manila Times helps us understand. The piece is titled VA Goes Virtual, Boon or Bane. It really lays out the complexities for us. Okay, let's unpack this. So as we mentioned, digital services are, well, they're everywhere. You could be queuing up a movie on Netflix, or you might be a local startup like that skincare brand mentioned, Infinity Naturals, relying on Facebook ads to find customers.
Yeah.
These services are fundamental now, aren't they, for how we live, work, connect. Before the new law, though, there was this issue, this perception of an uneven playing field. A lot of foreign digital services weren't really taxed here.
Right.
Which, caused some friction with local businesses who are paying all their taxes.
That's a really crucial point. It created this sort of structural vacuum in the tax system. You had traditional businesses, physical ones here in the Philippines, paying all the required local taxes. But these digital services coming from non-resident companies, they often slipped through the cracks of the existing tax framework. It was a big challenge for the government, not just losing potential revenue, but also ensuring, fairness in the market. It was really a classic case of policy needing to catch up with technology and globalization.
Right. And that's exactly where Republic Act No. 1/2023 comes in. This new law is a big shift. Basically, its core idea is to impose a 12% value-added tax, VAT, on digital services that we consume here in the Philippines. But importantly, these are services provided by what the law calls non-resident digital service providers, or NRDSPs.
NRDSPs, right.
So yeah, we're talking about the big names you probably use every day. Giants like Netflix, Facebook, Google, they're now officially covered by this tax.
And the range of services is pretty wide, too.
Yeah.
Online search engines, online marketplaces, cloud services, online media, advertising, different platforms, even digital goods. It's a pretty comprehensive net.
Yeah, it really covers a lot. And what's particularly striking that the article points out is the potential impact the government is projecting. President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., when he signed it, claimed RA 1/2023 could generate about PHP 105 billion in revenue over the next 5 years.
Wow, 105 billion. Yeah, it's a substantial figure. And according to him, that money is specifically earmarked for things like building thousands of classrooms, new health units, and vital roads across the country. If those funds really do go where they're promised, the effect on infrastructure and social services could be, well, quite significant.
Okay, so that's the big picture goal. Now let's zoom in a bit and see how this RA 1/2023 specifically affects businesses, particularly in what they call business to business, or B2B deals. This is where it gets a little more technical, maybe, but it's key to understanding the compliance changes. In these B2B situations, the responsibility for figuring out and paying that 12% VAT, it now falls on the Philippine-based business.
Right.
It works through something called a reverse charge mechanism. So instead of the foreign company charging the VAT, the local business has to handle the tax payment themselves.
Let's use that example from the article again, Infinity Naturals, the Filipino skincare brand. Say they run a PHP 10,000 online ad campaign on Facebook ads. Under this new law, Infinity Naturals still pays Facebook the PHP 10,000 for the ads. That part's the same. But in addition, they now have to calculate, withhold, and then separately pay the 12% VAT directly to the Bureau of Internal Revenue, the BIR. So for that 10,000 peso campaign, that's an extra PHP 1,200 they have to remit. It's a whole new step for them.
Right. So if Infinity Naturals is already VAT registered, they can claim that PHP 1,200 back as an input tax credit. So financially, on paper at least, it sort of nets out for them. They pay it, then claim it back. But that makes you wonder, doesn't it? If the cost is offset for these VAT-registered businesses, what's the real impact here? Is it just business as usual for them?
That's a really important distinction the article brings up, because while the direct financial cost might eventually balance out for VAT-registered companies, the deeper thing here is that RA 1/2023 basically outsources part of the tax collection job to Philippine businesses.
Ah, I see.
They're now kind of acting like agents for the BIR when dealing with these foreign providers. And this isn't just, more red tape. It means real administrative work. Businesses have to update their accounting systems, maybe train staff on how to handle this withholding and remittance, keep meticulous records for audits, manage the cash flow timing of these payments.
That sounds like a headache, especially for smaller businesses.
Exactly. For smaller companies, maybe those without big accounting teams, this can be a pretty significant new administrative burden. It takes up time, resources, things they could be using for growth or, innovation. So yes, the direct tax costs might be recoverable, but the cost of compliance, that's very real, and it's not insignificant.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's the business side. Now let's flip to the other side, us, the consumers. What happens in these business-to-consumer or B2C transactions? Here, the rule says the NRDSP, the non-resident digital service provider, they're the ones directly responsible for collecting the VAT. They have to file and pay it through this new VAT on digital services, or VDS, portal. And this part, this is where the law really starts to hit home for a lot of us, right, in our personal budgets.
Absolutely. Let's take Juan, the article's example of a typical Filipino Netflix subscriber. Juan's probably noticed his monthly bill went up. Why? Because Netflix now has to collect that 12% VAT and send it to the BIR. And the article gives the actual numbers, which are quite clear. The mobile plan, it went from PHP 149 to PHP 169 a month.
Right.
The basic plan jumped from PHP 249 up to PHP 279. Standard plan users saw an increase from PHP 399 to PHP 449 monthly. And the premium plan went from PHP 549 up to PHP 617 per month. Those aren't exactly small changes for the average household budget here.
No, definitely not. So even though it's Netflix doing the paperwork, filing and remitting the VAT to the government, it's Juan, the end consumer, who's actually footing the entire bill through these price hikes. The cost just gets passed straight on.
And if we connect this to, the bigger picture, that 12% on one subscription might not seem like the end of the world on its own. But the cumulative effect, that adds up fast. And it adds up significantly.
Right, it's not just Netflix.
Exactly. This isn't only about streaming movies. Think about all the digital things we use now that might fall under this. Maybe communication apps, cloud storage for work, our school files, online courses, even gaming subscriptions. These things that maybe started as optional comforts are becoming, for many, essential digital tools.
Oh, utilities almost.
Sort of, yeah. Digital utilities. And when every app, game, software license, cloud service goes up by 12%, that represents a pretty big and sometimes kind of hidden tax on just living in the modern world. It really forces households to rethink their budgets way beyond just one entertainment bill. It makes you ask that central question from the article. Can someone like Ron really stretch their budget to cover essentials and these increasingly expensive digital necessities? It forces a real reevaluation of what counts as a fixed household expense now.
Yeah, that really puts it into perspective, which brings us back to the broader reasoning behind RA 123. On paper, the goal is fairness, right? Leveling the playing field. The main argument is local businesses pay taxes, so why should these massive foreign digital companies who make a lot of money from the Philippines get a free pass?
Makes sense logically.
And it's worth remembering, the Philippines isn't acting alone here. Our neighbors, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, they've already put similar digital taxes in place. Finance Secretary Ralph Recto, quoted in the article, said the law aims to foster fairness, competition, and inclusion in our tax system and marketplace. So the intention seems clear. Update the tax system for today's digital world.
And while that principle of fairness and the potential revenues sound good, the article does a good job of presenting the other side, too. The view from Filipino consumers and businesses who are, as the article puts it, crying foul. Entrepreneurs, especially smaller ones, are dealing with more red tape, more administrative work, like we discussed with that reverse charge. It adds complexity. And consumers, They're seeing these heaps of silent price increases on services they use daily, which puts pressure on budgets that might already be tight. You could even argue, maybe, that this could potentially slow down digital adoption if accessing online tools becomes too costly for startups or individual creators. It really highlights that tension between the law's big goals and its immediate, very tangible effects.
And yet, there's still that element of hope the article points towards.
Yeah.
And the core promise, right? It's this.
Hey,
If the
Ron.
government genuinely uses this new money properly, really channels it into better infrastructure, education improvements, stronger healthcare, then maybe, just maybe, this shared sacrifice from businesses and consumers could actually lead to real noticeable improvements in everyone's quality of life. That's the ideal scenario, the hope behind it all.
But the article also brings in that dose of skepticism, a feeling many Filipinos might share. It says, but as Filipinos, we've already seen promises made and broken. We know the pain of the deductions in our paychecks.
Yeah, that resonates.
It taps into that history where sometimes new taxes haven't quite delivered the promised benefits, leading to questions about accountability, transparency, and how public money is spent. So it brings us back to that really critical question the article poses. Will we actually see the benefits of what we're paying for? Or will this just feel like another cost, another burden, without a visible positive outcome? The law's success, then, isn't just about collecting the tax. It really hinges on the government using that revenue wisely and, crucially, building and keeping public trust along the way.
And that, I think, sums up the complexity of Republic Act 1, 2023 perfectly. It's a law designed for fairness, designed to raise funds for development, acknowledging our digital reality. But it has these immediate, real effects, extra admin for businesses, higher prices for consumers. As we talk about these policies, it makes us think about our mission, business as a force for good. How does a law like this truly fit into that? Does the potential boon outweigh the immediate bane?
This whole discussion around RA 1 2023 really shows that even when a law has clear goals, its actual impact on the ground is complicated. It raises big questions about accountability, trust, and just how our economy is changing. It's definitely not a closed chapter. It's an ongoing conversation, and it really calls for all of us as consumers, as citizens, to stay engaged, watch how it unfolds, and, well, hold leaders accountable for delivering those promised benefits.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive into VAT goes virtual, Boon or Bane, based on the article from the Managing for Society column in the Manila Times. And we'll leave you with that final thought-provoking question from the article itself. Will we ever truly see the fruits of what we pay for? Or will this just be another loss, leaving us to wonder what could have been? That remains to be seen.